Okay, we're good.
So I want to just take a few minutes here here in the group, ladies, and my my sister tribe, and really, first of all, thank you for joining us, because I have with me Katie, and Katie has been really this has been an incredible relationship that her and I have formed. First of all, I met Katie. Katie, I met you back in October.
Yeah, only October.
It's like we've known each other for years, I
So
feel.
crazy. Yeah, totally
So
agree.
we met each other in October. We really connected. Both of us have a hypnotherapist background, but Katie's gone one step further, and she's gone into what she studied as a process called the quantum change process. And I got very curious because it helps you to release trauma instantaneously from your body. And I had a session with Katie, and I want to introduce Katie, and I want to talk a little bit about my session, and then just get into asking Katie some questions for you to understand what the quantum change process is. So welcome, Katie.
Thank
I'm so
you.
excited to have you, and I'm so excited for this new friendship because also, you've written a book, and I want you to talk a little bit about your book as well. Phenomenal book. I should have brought it with me. It's it's like
I,
literally over
I,
there.
I always have one with me. Here it
Home of the
is.
Soul. There it is. Home of the Soul. Phenomenal book about your journey. A phenomenal book. I was so
Thank you.
privileged. Like I said, I met Katie in October, and that first night that we met, we had an incredible gathering at her home outside on a fire, and we all collectively gathered and welcomed we had the full moon. Was it the full moon?
Yeah, it was a full moon.
It was
Mm-hmm.
the full moon. It was wild. It was beautiful. And then that night, Katie gave me the book. And I felt, this is incredible. I felt so honored to get this book. And I absolutely read the entire book. I was literally texting her and saying, I can so relate at this chapter. And it was like it was like for me, it was just meeting someone who understood my journey,
Mm,
because when we are going through a spiritual journey, there is an awakening. And so we all collectively who have gone through this and are continuing going through this journey feel that there is, on some level, we all have this unique understanding of each other's journey because we've been there.
right.
So yeah, so welcome. I'm so excited to have you talk about the Quantum Change program. So can I tell people a little bit about my experience?
Yeah. Oh, please do. I'm so happy to be here with you in this group too. So I just first of all want to say everybody who's out there, this group, you guys, if you're new, I'm fairly new to it. I'm just blown away at the energy that you feel here. So I'm hoping you're really going to dive into how much love that Fanula has in what she's offering, because the information is just not even about today, right? Like the information that she has within this group, I've just been so blessed to come across. So I want to thank you sincerely for having me
Thank you.
be just in here with this circle of women.
Thank you. This journey for me started 2 years ago. I formed this group together with the
Mm,
intention of bringing spiritual knowledge and enlightenment and awakening to women. I have a
yeah.
very strong connection to women. I felt like I needed to form a tribe.
Hmm.
So I really have some incredible people on this in this group who are now contributing, and I'm just so grateful. But I wanted to talk a little bit about my experience with Katie, who is phenomenal at what she does. And I can say this too, as well as a professional who has experienced some of the best professionals in the industry. And so I had this session with you, Katie. It was about a week and a half ago. Would it be 2 weeks now?
Yeah, about 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was intense. It was really intense and very profound. I had a very profound experience. I was blown away at the memories that were able to come
Hmm.
up, and you saw that I had a complete physical change,
Yeah.
literally, in our session. And so Well, for me, this session that I had with Katie revealed a trauma that I had when I was around 7. And as soon as we expelled that trauma, as soon as we witnessed it come up and the meaning that I had associated with that trauma, I had a release, a
Mm-hmm.
physical, profound release. I cried,
Yeah.
which I'm sure you see a lot with
Well,
your
yeah.
clients who have this emotional like experience. And then what followed after the session was over, other than the fact that I was very tired after, for a couple of days, I was like
Hmm.
literally my body was drained. There were more memories that came in. And I can honestly say that right after the whole thing occurred, there was an incredible shift. Like there
Yeah.
was like this something left me that day, like
Hmm.
something, and the association that I had with this particular trauma completely left me.
Yeah. It's pretty unbelievable what happens. And if I can for a moment, just talking, because it may sound a little bit like code, right? For those of you who don't really 100% know the full details, because we won't go into the context necessarily, right?
Right.
Of what the session was around. But what we're talking about when you're saying release and it's left me and things coming up is we're dealing with the unconscious mind or the subconscious mind. And the idea that everything you have ever experienced or felt or thought has been stored somewhere within your body. So we're not talking about this part of us, right? Not that conscious part that says, hey, I can think about things and that memory makes me feel a certain way. Or, I said that and yeah, I can understand why that would make me feel that way. We're really going deeper than that to say, what is it that I didn't know is causing XYZ that's showing up in my life right now? And not only what is it that I didn't know, but how is it reoccurring in patterns over and over again that I haven't been able to see? And that's where we go into those deep layers of what's underneath the surface in all of those old memories that were stored in your body, like physically, right? That energy is still there, it's not gone, of the things that when you were little, right? Like think back to 7 years old. Do you really remember 7 years old? For most of us, or earlier even, it's those memories can be vague. And sometimes that's a very good indicator of things that you're not quite ready to deal with. So your unconscious mind tends to sort of put a blocker on certain things until you're ready to fully deal with them. And that's what QCP does. It allows for us to really have a safe environment to address what it is that you really need in your highest good in this absolute moment to move past whatever's showing up for you currently.
So I love that you said that, because my first question is, what is the QCP process? Like, what's the quantum change process? And honestly, I'm very curious in how you got into it, because I know as someone who studied hypnotherapy, I got into it to heal myself
Yeah.
first, obviously. And then I saw the change. And of course, I became interested in helping others.
Yeah. So I mean, very similar. We run very, similar but very different lives in so many ways. And for me, it was exactly the same. I always say I fell into this work accidentally. I never intended to be a coach. I had no idea what QCP was or energy work. And I was dealing with a lot of anxiety in my life in 2017, where I wasn't telling anybody what was going on. I was just really, what you would call high functioning, but a debilitated mess inside, if I was honest. And it led me to ultimately a conference where I connected with a trainer who happened to do this work. And I remember saying to them, like, for the first time, hey, I'm really struggling with anxiety here. And I don't even know what to do about it, because therapy didn't seem or feel right to me. It just felt like, well, I don't know. I don't really know what my problem is. I couldn't sit here and tell you how do you feel about something? I didn't know what the something was, right? It was under complete a veil, really. So going into a session, it was recommended, and I'm like, I have no idea what this is. And I was so incredibly nervous. At that time in my life, I was facing a lot of social anxiety. So to tell somebody who's had this pent up anxiety for years, who doesn't want to talk to people, who's nervous to meet strangers, that you're going to sit down and, go through what's really causing all of this was quite terrifying. And I knew that it was something I needed to do, even though I was scared. So once I experienced what happened for me in those hours with somebody that I had no, I didn't know them. They were essentially a stranger before that moment. The safe space that was created for me to feel like I could really get into what I needed to in that moment was like nothing else I just couldn't have articulated it to somebody at the time. And I just knew that what happened for me, I needed to bring this to more people. And it wasn't about how do I do this as a business? It was more like, I'm so interested in this. How do I not do this? Look what's happened for me. I'm been able to conquer my anxiety, my social anxiety. I now, run most of my business online and doing live videos. And I've been a speaker at some very major conferences. And that wouldn't have been possible with what I was carrying from my past that was revealed in that session.
Amazing. It's true what you said. I wouldn't have ever thought that I would be here doing this with the
Yeah.
social anxiety that I had. And I felt the exact same way when I
Mm,
first encountered hypnotherapy. And, you know, but what happens to us is that we have this incredible shift.
yeah.
And then we kind of feel like almost a moral responsibility to go out and to help others, because we
Yeah.
know, having felt the pain and the stress and the emotional traumas, we know that for many, and I've come across this as a hypnotherapist, for many, therapists can only get so far because they don't go to the subconscious level.
Right.
They let you talk about it, but I had met so many women in my practice who said, I spent 5, 6, 7 years in therapy, and
Mm,
I got more out of one session with
mhm.
you than I had my entire time with the
Yeah.
therapist. And that's because we delve into, like you said, it's not here.
Mhm.
It's the subconscious mind that is the driver.
Yeah. And I'll tell you because so all the work is confidential, 100%. It goes nowhere besides, you and I that are in a session personally. So it also becomes a bit difficult to explain what really happens for people in that transformation. So I'll use a little bit of example of myself because I have full permission at least to do that, right? And what's happened within my own session years back. And what really, really happened was I went in with this intention of like, where is the source of my anxiety coming from, and how do I release that from my life? Well, fear was a big running theme, and I could have said that on a conscious level where yes, I feel nervous or afraid of a lot of things each day. And my background, I came from an abusive household, I lived in a rough neighborhood. Okay, consciously, like, yeah, I've left all that behind though, right? Like, I've gotten over that, I'm an adult now. Well, the truth of the matter was, fear started for me much, much earlier than I ever consciously knew. And my session ended up going so far back that the first initiating moment of when that really deep seated root of fear had rooted in for me was in my mother's womb. And I mean, you've experienced a session and how we kind of get there in where that age comes from, but it was like, how did you know that, when this practitioner is going, back and forth with me and giving me some information on this is what's happening for you and this is what I'm getting based on what your cellular memory is, and how this you're providing this information. It's not me guessing, right? Your body and your energy is telling me this. Well, it turns out that that time in my life where fear had rooted in the womb, my mother was going through some unbelievable things. And I didn't know about them at the time. They were completely unconscious to me. I was there in a physical sense. My energy was within her,
Mhm.
and her experiencing those very, very deep emotions. You better believe I was experiencing them too as a child. So it started for me there. And the patterns that were revealed in how I perceived women was really, really interesting that came out, and how I had actually looked at many women within my life as someone that was weak because they had to do certain things to survive, and, abusive relationships, and how I viewed that cycle and pattern over and over again. But I didn't realize that every time I had witnessed somebody, having to be in that type of relationship and be belittled and be manipulated and controlled, it created this domino effect of compounding that fearful energy until I became an adult. And in my 30s, it just completely exploded within me, where it felt like I was like jittery, right? Like
Mhm.
each day, because I didn't know how to release all of those previous moments of fear starting in the womb.
Yeah, no, I've heard this particular kind. There's so much evidence actually
Yeah.
of people remembering trauma in the womb, and there's so much evidence even on a medical level where they've actually said mother's thoughts, mother's words, mother's emotions have an absolute profound effect on the fetus. But
Yeah.
what I'm curious about is, with respect to the work that you do, I mean, why would I, or why would someone who's watching this, and we've got, they've got an issue that they want to deal with, why would they want to book a session?
So, what happens after you've had a session is all of those blocks that you maybe didn't realize were there start to line up in interesting ways. So, for example, I've had clients that have been struggling in their work, in their business, to either feel fulfilled or make that monetary maybe amount of achievement, whatever it is that they've been looking to do, and it's been a serious struggle, and there's been setbacks of a whole bunch of different things. And I've had them come in for a session, and what we're really dealing with is not, success or failure within your business. It's something completely different, but it's created self sabotage over the years. And the reason for not achieving your goals or having that relationship that you truly want and desire has been blocked because of this pattern that you didn't know that was there. So, people showing up in a session, they're oftentimes dealing with really heavy negative emotions, dealing with anxiety or fear or anger, sadness, something that you're just really feeling off. And what tends to happen after that is relationships start to, almost, I want to say magically, because it's not even about going and having a conversation with somebody. And then now that relationship is repaired, relationships start to flow and have repairs to old wounds that were there in an energetic sense that you didn't realize. And, work accomplishments start to happen. Your path starts to open up in life. There's just so many things that flourish after releasing whatever those emotions are.
Oh, it's so true. We can say that, and I can say that, you and I can say that, because we've worked with so many people that tell us after the fact that not only the way that they view themselves changes,
Mm,
right? Which is the
yeah.
most profound thing, first of all, to accomplish, right? It's
Yeah.
how they view others and how they view the relationships that they're in. And there's suddenly profound, insights into themselves, which start to, like, it becomes a domino effect. It becomes
Mhm.
like, even what you said, up until the age of 30, I became a pressure cooker. Well, you've constantly are reigniting that particular emotion, that memory, and all of a sudden it starts compounding,
Yeah.
because when you get to 30, and if you start to have a life that suddenly becomes, um, you know, busy,
Hmm.
and you're facing challenge. I've read your book, so I know what you were facing at that time,
Right.
right? You were facing some profound, things. You start to have it come up, and it starts to literally take a life of its own.
Oh, exactly. And so, in talking about some of the things I share within the book itself, there's all these connections that started to be made afterwards where I didn't realize repressed memories, like you spoke about for yourself, these memories started to come back where at first it was like, wait a minute, did this happen? And then having a conversation with my sister where, she's confirming some of these things. And it's like, whoa, there was some big stuff that
Mhm.
I completely blocked out of my life.
Yeah, it's amazing how the mind, well, even the body and the mind work together to self-preserve, right?
Yeah.
Even
Yeah.
if it is self-sabotage, it's so it's
Yeah.
confounding. But what are some of the things that you've noticed in your clients, for instance, like, that have been, that that happen to them after they've worked with you? What are some of the key points that you've noticed
Yeah.
that you
So
find are consistent?
So one of the things I love about social media is I get to kind of check in on clients when they don't really realize that I am, right? So you get to kind of see how their energy seems to
Yeah.
be shifting and changing, because sometimes what happens is a major difference in almost, well, confidence level for sure, but people don't even necessarily realize it because it's just like, hey, like I've always been this way. All of a sudden it's an embodiment of, what they didn't even realize was always there. So confidence 100% is something that tends to really really come forward, but letting go of those feelings of anxiety, being able to do the thing that you've always wanted to do but have been worried about, say fear of judgment, repairs to relationships, better marriages are all of the things that tend to happen like layers of an onion afterwards. I've seen some major career developments with clients that didn't even come in necessarily to fix or change or grow their
Mhm.
career, but all of a sudden it's like abundance was opened up because there's no longer that thing that's been the anchor holding them down for what they're really truly meant for. So confidence, I would say, is number one. Letting go of that anxiety is a huge one.
So interesting that I just want to point this out. And for those of you that are listening, there is a very common thread in all of this that we're both talking about that is consistent through what Katie has been saying and what I've been saying here in this group. When we want to change a relationship,
Mm,
the change has to start with us. And that is why the work that she does and that I do is so important, because it initially starts with you. The answers lie within you.
hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I've said many times over, and I'm not the one who first came up with this, but it was said to me by an amazing mentor, Ernie Pavan, one time, that we marry our unconscious mind and then project all of our
So,
unresolved stuff onto them,
so
right?
true.
Like, we do this even with kids, with parents, the
Oh my
people
word, it's
closest
so
to
true.
us.
Yes,
Yeah.
it's
So
so true.
if you ever want to know what it is that's going on, right? Like if you're wanting to figure out what's the problem in my life right now, look at the person closest to you and say, what is their problem right now? What do I think their problem is right now? Because chances are there's something that's being mirrored back to you to
Yeah.
try and give you some insight on.
Yeah, no, very, very true. So if there's someone out here right now who's watching you right now and you've piqued their curiosity and they're interested, what are the what are some of the things that people might be a little bit nervous of? Because let's face it, because you're a hypnotherapist, I've done hypnotherapy. One thing I get from everybody in hypnotherapy is, do I lose control?
Mhm.
And it's such a profound, you know, it brings out a
Yeah.
nervousness in people. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. So sessions are 100% safe in every way. I feel like I need to say for some reason right now to somebody that's listening that if you are pregnant, this is safe for you and your child. It's absolutely the most beautiful time too, because I've had that come up quite often, in terms of being nervous about what exactly is going to happen. So, depending on if you're doing an online session with me, this can be done from anywhere in the world, wherever you are. Don't let that be your barrier. We can do this over a virtual secured line. So, 100% confidential, first of all. Anything that comes up in conversation between us is not for anybody else to ever receive info on. And I take that very seriously. So it's a safe setting that we create. There's nothing that you're going to be poked and prodded for that you're not ready to experience. We go through when it comes to hypno, right? Going under hypnosis or anything like that. It's really just putting you in a relaxed state. So you're 100% in control of every thought, every word, every action that you will say or do. It's really just about allowing yourself to feel relaxed enough for whatever that you need to experience in terms of connections made of memories or experiences before, allowing them to connect because you're now feeling safe and comfortable to do that.
Well, I can certainly attest to that because I did a session with you, and it is, m- you're very aware and you're
Mhm.
there and you're present, and so I felt extremely safe and very comfortable, and you made sure, like through the whole process, like honestly your voice carried me through it, and
Mm.
it was a beautiful experience. It really, really was. um, so what can someone expect to experience while they're in the session?
Yeah, so it does take a couple of hours, generally between 3 and 4 hours, depending on, how much we're dealing with. It's not content driven. So you're not going to be sitting this there with me and going through every experience that's been difficult or hard for you. We really don't get a lot into the details. So it allows for you to not have to need to have answers, right? You don't need any personal history or anything like that going into a session. And all we're really doing is having a safe space for your unconscious memories to pop up and to work through them. So, in those moments, you afterwards, so we go through about 3.5 hours together. And like you said, you may feel fairly tired, right? Especially the day of. And it's really because of that release, that energetic release of heavy emotions. You've done a lot of heavy lifting, like literally within the session energetically. So, feeling tired is very, very normal afterwards. Aside from that, it tends to integrate within a day or so where most people feel really a lot lighter immediately, a lot less intense in terms of their emotions, or it kind of lays out differently for every single person, but just physically feeling a bit tired is the only thing that I can kind of mention as to be aware of.
Yeah. And I was surprised because when you first told me, yeah, it's going to take 3 hours, I was like, 3 hours. But I didn't feel the 3 hours.
Yeah,
It, it,
it
it,
flies.
it flew. And before I knew it, the session was over because you are really engaged and you're very, very present. So you don't feel the 3 hours. But you brought up a subject, and I do have an audience that actually, some of them are women who are, probably in their childbearing ages. And
Mhm.
there's a lot of women who are actually having a hard time conceiving. Now,
Mhm.
I'm a very big believer that when you are having a hard time conceiving, there is something there emotionally that is blocking that conception,
Yeah.
because our body can actually shut down certain systems and
Mhm.
produce certain levels of hormones that'll actually interfere with impregnation. So
Yeah.
what about people who, for instance, are looking to possibly try to conceive? I truly believe, and I know Marissa Peer also believes this, and she's very successful in helping women,
Yeah.
um, get past this emotional block of, conceiving a child. What are your feelings about that? And can, QCP help?
Yeah, most definitely. And I'm actually really, really, really happy that you asked this question because it's not something that I've generally talked about often, where there have been cases of women who have come in just literally for the intention of I'm really struggling with conceiving and this is happening within my relationship and now it's creating stress in so many other areas of our
Mhm.
lives and we've done everything we can. I don't know what else I can do. So, yes, that has been a reason for people showing up for sessions. And there has been a huge difference in being able to conceive afterwards. Now, can I explain what's happening in a physical sense? Not in scientific terms, no, but can I tell you that I have actually personally known people who have gone into a QCP session and now successfully have children that couldn't conceive before because of a multitude of reasons. So 100%, it is a reason to show up and it could be very meaningful for you.
No, I agree. And I totally agree. And I'm so happy that, because what I've experienced and what I know about QCP now, I think it would be a very advantageous thing to
Yeah.
do before a couple actually considers going to the other side where there's thousands of dollars involved. And
Yeah.
and not only just thousands of dollars, but the draining of your emotions when you're going through that, and the using of the hormones. I mean, our body has the ability to self heal.
Mhm. Yeah.
Once we unblock what we need to unblock in our emotions and in our, subconscious mind, our body has the ability to heal.
Yeah.
So, and I can attest to this because I've literally gone to and from the edge of death 8 times, and I
Yeah.
have completely healed myself in the sense where doctors could not heal me. So, I do know this for a fact, and I really believe in what you do, Katie. So I'm
Thank you.
so grateful that you've brought this, this QCP and your friendship, into this group and who you are. Very happy to have you here, and I really truly encourage my audience and my tribe to reach out to Katie. Let's make sure we put your actual contact and how they can reach out to you. And this is another thing, she's able to do this online. She's the
Mhm.
only registered QCP, I believe,
Yeah, there's not a lot of
practitioner
practitioners doing it
that
online.
that can do it online. So and because I've had a personal session with Katie, I can vouch and say that she is truly fantastic, and I really love her work. And maybe down the road I might become a QCP practitioner, I don't know,
Mm,
but right now it's
yeah.
not in the cards. I am I have actually closed, slowly closed down my practice because I'm going out to another different direction. But you know in this group, we have people like Katie, we have people like Esther, we have people like myself, but we are here to help you heal yourself. I
Yeah.
mean, at the end of the day, we're here to give you direction and a and a road to go down and really like find healing within yourself, because ultimately all we do is guide you and help you. The rest is really up to you. Am I
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. It's, I don't get the answers from anywhere besides the client themselves. So
Yes.
it's all about you and just learning how to get back to knowing how to trust yourself.
Yeah, it's so important. And now more than ever, guys, as I said
Mhm.
before in some of my lives, and I've come on here and I've been preaching to you now this whole year. This is no longer a dress rehearsal.
Yeah.
We're moving into a whole new type of way of living. If you thought your stress levels if you've been sabotaging yourself before and you've got anxiety, you've got things that you need to deal with, now's the time.
Hmm.
Now's the time. There's no better time than now. And look at what has happened in our lives. Myself, Katie, we've literally witnessed our lives taking a major shift and going into different directions. And truly, we're it's been a blessing.
Oh, amazing blessing. Yeah.
Right. So thank you again for your time. I'm truly grateful for, the experience of QCP. And I urge I urge you to reach out to Katie. She's amazing at getting back to you. She's a beautiful soul, and I highly, highly recommend her. So thank you so much, Katie. Namaste,
Oh, thank
and
you.
love and
I,
light,
j-
my sister.
yeah, I just love and adore you. Thank you so
I
much.
love and adore you too. Looking forward to coming out to Kingston soon.
Yes, please. Yes. I just miss you already.
All right, love.
Okay.
Namaste.
Take care, everybody.
Take care. So that went really well.